ecosystem is really everything that surrounds you that would ideally support you in going from a good idea that you have to where that idea becomes a reality, creating real and measurable impact.
I think we get more conscious about the meaning of being interdependent. I think we have separated things a lot, but if you really want to achieve something, you have a network and everything is more fluid and more interdependent than we used to think.
I do think ecosystems are important, but I think the people on the ground, the people who are working in the communities, they probably couldn't care less about ecosystems.
We often talked about the wider environment, so I think ecosystem is perhaps just a development on what we used before ecosystem, but one which also recognises those wider networks and interlinkages that exist, rather than sort of siloing the processes of thinking about policy regulation.
It's often pure accidental events why people meet and create something. So effective ecosystem reduces these accidental events, and it needs to have a structured process how people meet who would never meet otherwise.
Really, at the heart of it, ecosystems are about relationships and the idea of collaborating even through conflict.
So what we were trying to do with this event was to bring people together from across Europe involved in social innovation in one way or another to have a very concrete discussion about a word that's very much in vogue at the moment, but also can be seen quite fluffy. It can mean everything to everybody and nothing to nobody.
There's always a risk at these types of conferences that using a term like ecosystem can be a buzzword and that we spend the entire time discussing definitions. I think that's only productive to a point, and what we really tried to do is talk more about the features of an ecosystem rather than trying to agree on a definition.
In building an ecosystem, you need both things: the hardware that provides people with organizations and support, and the software empowering people and inspiring them to take action.
The tough question facing social innovation in general is, can it become more pervasive? Can it become like water so that it can actually get everywhere and be, in a sense, indestructible?
There's some brilliant things going on, but they need more demand. They need the general public to know about them, to want them, to desire them. I think that, for me, is like the biggest gap.
What we're doing in the permaculture movement is often not being labeled as separate movements or strands in how a society brings about change. So we are sharing the ownership, but we don't label it shared economy.
You have this new community of organizations that are developing digital solutions to social challenges, but they are quite disconnected from the existing community of social innovation organizations. I think the big challenge is, how can you bring together the people and skills who are in all these new startups with all the incumbents from the old world of social innovation, if you want.
For me, social innovation, it's an infinite game. It's not just about organizations doing well. I think the best organizations will be which define themselves as organisms and contribute to very holistic and multi-perspective new solutions.
And what we could do is to connect the various ecosystems so that they learn from each other. They try to build on existing solutions, but they don't really create something on its own. They rather build on what was good elsewhere and then what can be shared with others. So this kind of EU networking of ecosystems.
I think changing the attitude when you are on the policy side is a key start for the social innovation community. So it's about co-inventing, so it's a change in culture.
Social innovation is something ungraspable, so public administration has really a big challenge to create an environment that will allow innovation, allow risk. So the aim of the public sector is not only to support social innovations, but also not to kill it.
I think one essential part of support that governments can give to ecosystems is communication, so people are aware that their infrastructure is available for them to be used.
What we mainly need is recognition as a voice that can be taken serious and that's actually doing the things that it preaches. To be recognized as this change maker by politicians would be amazing.
we've not been sufficiently assertive enough about the idea that ecosystems are competitive and cooperative. And the question of competition and failure is pretty important too.
As with a natural ecosystem, a social innovation ecosystem has life and death as a cycle, and that this is nothing to be feared, and that sometimes old ideas have to move aside so that new ones can come in and take their place.
It's been so refreshing to be a part of an event where people don't all agree with each other, and actually maybe it's a sign of a mature ecosystem. We do compete with each other. In nature it happens, so why are we all so nice to each other all the time?
We've kind of exposed the brutal reality of ecosystems where there's a time to compete and there's a time to collaborate. And there was a real sense we'd opened a door which hadn't been opened before. So I think there's a number of things emerging here which are worth us looking at, thinking about how do we nurture this, where do we take it? Because some of the key stakeholders here I think could probably play a more active role than they've been able to so far.
There are a lot of great ideas that go unheard. We have to make sure that there's a system that allows these ideas to go from a seed, a kernel, through to scaling, and make sure that every step of the way we're all there and we're working in a sequence to bring that forward to people who can do something with this on the policy level.